Hello guys, thank you so much for joining in. This is Kraftshala Live series, and today we have with us Aashish from Mexico. Before I just come to that, for the ones who have joined us for the first time, I'll take you through what exactly I'll be doing here itself. This is season 3 of Kraftshala Live series, and in this professional series of Kraftshala Live, primarily try to bridge the gaps that are present in the marketing community of the country itself. This is a series that happens every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Um, Okay, let us quickly. This is Kraftshala. For those of you who do not know, we create online programs in sales and marketing. Yeah, these are programs for working professionals. This is our core program, which is professional brand management in the digital age. We've got for B school students, we've got these programs, digital brand building program, and the sales leadership program as well. The B school programs are going to be launching in your specific B schools in December and January, and the working professional programs is accepting uh, uh, admissions at this point of time already. We're also hiring, which is a very relevant information. I hope for I think for a lot of you here, we're hiring for a marketing training manager and for a content associate uh, uh, role as well. So you can apply for these roles on our website itself. This is going to be the next session. It's going to be taken by me. It's going to be on fundamentals of search marketing. It's going to be next Tuesday at 7 p.m. And coming to this specific session, right? Very excited to have Aashish Chopra with us. So this specific session is going to be around creating game-changing content on a shoestring budget. We actually shot content with Aashish last year, and the reason for that was because we had always thought of viral video marketing as something which is a hit and a miss, right? It is something which is very very difficult to do. Yeah, a little bit like kicking a football above your head into the net over and over again. It's a very difficult thing to do. However, after talking to Aashish, we figured out that there is a process to it, that it's not all hit and miss. There is actually a process. There are actually rules of thumb, and he's been able to make it into a science rather than just a chance action itself. And this is probably the reason why he's got upwards of 370 million views on his videos itself, and he's done some great work at Exego. I'll leave it up to you, Aashish, to take it up from here. Thank you so much for doing it with us, guys. Let us learn about how to create viral videos itself at a shoestring budget. Thanks, Aashish.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Let me just start my slide deck. Where did it go? Okay. So, I'm starting right now. My name is Aashish, and I'm the author of the book Fast, Cheap, and Viral. And it took me 3 years to write this book. And the reason I wrote it, because this was the book I wanted to read, and it was not available. I was, at a bookstore at Mumbai airport, and I was just hunting for more understanding, more insights, more about content, because the game in India is changing so fast, and I could not find even one book from India which had an actionable insights. Like my work over the last 6 years has been connected to the word viral, which is very dangerous because viral is an outcome. Viral is not in our hands, right? So, like, I go to events and people walk up to me and say, "Sir, एक video viral करना है." I'm like, "ये लो comic flam, so it viral हो जाएगा." Because viral is an outcome; it's not in our hands. What can we focus on that the result is a video which goes viral? Because India, we are obsessed about the outcomes. Every bacha has to be a topper. Every movie has to be a blockbuster, and every video has to be a viral video. I'm like, if every video has to be a viral video, what can I focus on? Because results हमारे हाथ में नहीं है. What we have in our hand is the performance, and marketing is like hope is not a strategy in marketing. Tukke marna is not marketing. We need a process on which we can build on, right? So my journey started 6 years back when my boss at that time called me to his office and he said, "Aashish, we have to let you go." And suddenly I was out of a job, and I had dropped out of college in second year. और इंडिया में जब आपके पास डिग्री ना हो तो मतलब you can't attend any family function, right? So much taboo not having a degree. So I remember driving back home in my tiny Tata Nano that night, and I was full of insecurity, didn't know about the future. I really wanted to get into content marketing, but मुझे content का C भी नहीं पता, right? I really wanted to make videos, but I didn't know where to get started. I attended a film school for 3 months, and then took me 6 months to unlearn half the shit they taught us. Because film school की teaching was Bombay की teaching. एक director है, एक art director है, 100 लोगों का crew है, एक costume है. I'm like, tell me, because I wanted to learn the game where the web, how video was changing the game on social, online. YouTube was the first, big deal in videos on the internet. And now YouTube is just a video platform, whereas all other platforms, social, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, LinkedIn, they're all competing video platforms. So that started my journey about obsessing about what works and what doesn't work. So that first video, when I was driving down that night, I had this idea for a video for a long time. And eventually, after 1 year of procrastination, I made that video. And that video went crazy. Released it on the evening. The next day, I was on Radio Mirchi in the morning, Radio Mirchi in the evening. I was on NDTV. BuzzFeed was covering it. My face was showing up in news feeds around the world. My friends were calling me. That was like the happiest and the scariest time of my life. Happiest because, of course, the 15 seconds of fame. And scariest because if I did not build on that success, if I did not figure out why this worked, then I would be a one-hit wonder. So that got me obsessed about figuring out ये video chala क्यों, engagement कहाँ से आया, and how can we have a process, a manual, a method to the madness behind videos which go viral, and can we replicate that? The book. Here's the book. The book took me 3 years to write, right? Because book likhna was about 1 month, but the rest of the time was about validating. Yeah, ये चीज काम करती है कि नहीं है? Because it's easy to give ज्ञान. LinkedIn पे कीर्तन होता है रोज ज्ञान का, right? It's easy to give tips curated from the internet or brain farts, but an actionable manual which is validated, every insight, and I'll share a lot of insights today because this session is not about ज्ञान की क्या होना चाहिए, क्या होना, it's not about philosophy about how I think videos or content should be done. It's actionable. What can you start Monday? How can you start creating videos if you want to create a personal brand on LinkedIn? Or how can you start creating on low budget if you work for a startup? And if you're a big brand, how can you think like a startup, spend less, and create more videos, do more experiments? Because at the bottom of it, I take trips in the metro. I used to before the lockdown. And metro mein I realized आधा घंटा everybody's free. And in that time, everybody's hooked on their phones, right? And एक 2 करोड़ का सेलिब्रिटी वाला वीडियो हो, बहुत बड़े ब्रांड ने बनाया है, या फिर एक 10,000 का वीडियो एक स्टार्टअप ने बनाया है, both of them compete for the same attention, and both of them go up like this. One swipe up of the thumb and it's gone. So the whole energy, the whole focus became how can we stop that thumb from swiping up and get true engagement? Because आपके content पे views means nothing. Engagement, comments and shares is the holy grail. You can spend as much money on production, make it Sanjay Leela Bhansali, great production, make it, spend money on platforms so everybody gets to see it. But आप engagement खरीद नहीं सकते. Your content has to earn that engagement. And that has been my obsession, in doing experiments to figure out what is the, what's a 7-step process? How do you start? Because अगर आपने गलत, because एक अच्छे वीडियो में और एक घटिया वीडियो में, एक अच्छे कंटेंट में, घटिया कंटेंट में, अच्छे कैंपेन, अच्छी कम्युनिकेशन, घटिया कैंपेन, घटिया कम्युनिकेशन में एफर्ट सेम लगता है. इट्स ऑल अबाउट द डायरेक्शन. अगर आप इफ यू आर गोइंग फ्रॉम दिल्ली टू मुंबई और आपकी रेलवे ट्रैक्स इवन 1 डिग्री चेंज हो जाए, देन यू विल रीच कोलकाता, राइट? सो आई विल शो यू द फर्स्ट वीडियो. इट्स कॉल्ड गुड़गांव टोल सरप्राइज. इट्स maybe 6 years back. So here it is. So that was the first video, right? And just to give you perspective, I drove for 6 hours. Like I put 3 cameras on the car, right? And that's the same sensibility I use today for videos, because you don't need high production value. You need kick-ass storytelling in videos today. So I put 3. There's 1 camera on the car here, 1 on the side, 1 was in my hand. All the Jim Jam I use in the video. Can you imagine? BuzzFeed covered it. NDTV, my face showed up, and the biggest pressure was when my face showed up in the right below the CEO of Microsoft and the guys who sold WhatsApp to Facebook. Can you imagine the pressure that everybody, all my friends and family, everybody's thinking, what video will I make next? And I'm also figuring out what video will I make next. And that started my obsession about figuring out, yaar, ye chala kyun? Why did it work? Because tukke nahi marne. We need a process. We need to build on that process, right? So, like I believe, like all of you who are, you're studying, you are in marketing. I believe, India the best thing about India is that as a country is that India many things can go wrong. Share market can go, economy can go down, but there's one number which consistently keeps going up. And that number is the number of people who are online on their phones. Like Google said last year that every month 10 million new connections got activated in the last quarter. 10 million per month. And this is the data from the Google event like last week, that more than 500 million people are online and 450 have smartphone devices. And these are the audiences who have moved away from the traditional TV and newspapers, and they're spending so much time on their mobile devices. And if marketing happens wherever your audience is. If your audience is spending a lot of time on your shiny devices, then that's where you have to be. Like there was a report that in India, Indians spend 28 hours a week on their mobile devices, 4 hours watching TV and 2 hours on print. Do the math. If everybody's spending so much time on their tiny devices, there could not be a bigger opportunity to disrupt the traditional media and engage your audiences wherever they are. So this to me, then this is the best country in the world for you to build your careers. At the same time, for you, if you're already working in marketing, to rise ahead, because this is this tide will raise all the boats. And but the challenge is that this excitement about content, this, like for example, in the last 4 months when the lockdown started, and like in the company I work for, Ixigo, it's a travel company, like their flights app, they have a trains app, and suddenly flights were shut down, trains were shut down, and revenue almost dipped. We had massive salary cuts, and it's been there for everybody across companies, and work from home started. So that was a completely new new normal, where because creating content, creativity, to me was always a very collaborative process. How do you do that, working from home? But the only thing we had in that time, and now things are getting back to normal, salaries are back, flights are opening up, we, as a company, as a family, we're coming out of it. But the only thing we had were our users, were our audiences, and our process of creating content. And in the last 4 months, we had 5 videos which hit viral back to back. And I'll give you a lot of examples about, very recent examples, ideas and videos which went viral in this time. So it's exciting that, we're living in the great times in terms of the opportunity, the sheer opportunity to engage with your audiences, and the sheer tide with which, you can rise above as well. But the big challenge is that ये opportunity सबके लिए. ये सिर्फ मेरे लिए नहीं है, मेरी कंपनी के लिए नहीं, तुम्हारे लिए नहीं. It's for everybody. It's for big companies. It's for startups. It's for your cousin who wants to become a YouTuber. It's for anybody, because everybody starts competing in the same newsfeed. So the challenges are the filters which I look through before any idea, any campaign, any communication is filtered. And those challenges are that we need to realize that our users live in overwhelming content density. Itna content hai, there is so much chaos of content. For example, Facebook can show you 2,000 posts every day. 2,000 posts every day. It can show you. But if it does show you, you will stop using Facebook. So it doesn't work for them. So they have this newsfeed algorithm, and they only show you stuff which is relevant to you. So they have this filtering. They only show you stuff which is relevant to you. Now, that's Facebook. WhatsApp, there is no filtering. How many of you have groups on mute for an entire year? I have family group on mute entire year. Family without Chachaji group, mute for entire year. If WhatsApp gave me an option, I would mute all these groups on mute for lifetime. Because there is no filtering. Because we live in such a chaotic world. Our audience, our users are already our lives are already full of so much chaos, right? Khane mein kya khana hai, bacche, EMI, health, naukri, EM, there's so many things which are capturing our mind, and we're living in a chaos. Uske upar ek chota sa phone hai, uske andar bhi chaos hai. So whatever communication we do, whatever campaign, whatever content or video we create, that has to break through the clutter and rise to the top. The most remarkable videos will rise to the top, and that's the challenge as marketers, as content creators we have, be it for LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta. The next challenge is that the bullshit radars have evolved. For example, in late 80s, India had one TV channel, right? That was Doordarshan. Now imagine in a country where there is just one TV channel, a family of 4 used to sit in front of that TV channel and we used to watch, the shows at that time. And at that time, अगर उस शो के बीच में ad आता था, निर्मा या बजाज, we did not know कि ये ad है कि programming है, because एक ही channel है. And then multiple channels came on the screen in the 90s. There's Sony, ESPN, a plethora of channels, exploded on the TV screen. And then the remote control was born. A remote control is nothing but a bullshit detector. If you're watching a program, an ad comes, an iota of bullshit appears, you switch the channels. I remember watching movies by fast forwarding the songs. I'm like, "Arey Shah Rukh Khan, tumhe police pakad rahi, tum gana kyun ga rahe ho?" So that's the experience, is that remote control was a bullshit detector, right? Now fast forward to 2020, and if you see the behavior in millennials, even our mummy papa generation, who are so used to good morning and Facebook and WhatsApp, that as soon as an ad appears, an iota of bullshit appears, all tab, different app, we just jump right off. There is ad blindness. अरे आप अखबार लेते हो, you get morning newspaper और 5 पेज के बाद शुरू करते हो, because पहले 5 पेज में सिर्फ ads और bullshit है. So there is fatigue when it comes to ads. There's ad blindness. Websites where we ignore the ads, apps where we ignore the ads. So whatever content we create, that has to be truly authentic and pierce through that bullshit, right? Because the trust among audiences with ads has gone down dramatically, because all the ads, all the brands have been yelling, building on the traditional principle of recall. The time of recall in marketing is gone. Today it's all about relevance. आपके बारे में बात कौन कर रहा है सोशल पे? Because TV लोग नहीं देख रहे उतना. People are spending time on their phones. So this is not the time of recall कि इनको दिखाते रहो. It's about reaching to their heart and getting genuine engagement with your content. The next challenge is that the attention span is super low. Human attention span is 8 seconds. 8 seconds. Freaking goldfish is 9 seconds. मतलब every 8 seconds something happens in our environment which takes our attention away. और जब जनता का attention span ही इतना कम है, like I hate videos which start with powered by, presented by, this brand. I'm like, जनता तो भाग जाएगी, right? Because if we live in a chaotic world and our attention span is super low, I just work with this assumption that जनता का attention span is 3 to 6 seconds. अगर 3 से 6 सेकंड में you did not hold their hand in the news feed and take them on a journey, then he's gone forever. And that news feed could be LinkedIn, if you're posting on LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta or Twitter. And the last challenge which has been born, which in the last 4 months, is work from home challenge. Like, how do you consistently come up with campaigns? How do you consistently come up with creativity, collaborate with people across cities, and come up with content? The answer to that is the process. Because you can only build upon the process. Because creativity, in my experience, I've seen like a lot of agencies, a lot of in-house teams. Creativity is very subjective. Creativity is like mera wala pink versus tumhara wala pink, right? So to me, creativity has to be a democratic process where we have to convince each other that the value the end user gets. Because as marketers, as content creators, we don't work for the brand. We work for the customers. We work for our audience. We work for our users. And brand is a bahana, a storytelling tool, a vehicle through which that narrative flows, right? So these challenges are something I'm always cognizant of. I've pasted this on my wall to always realize it's not about just videos. Like if, for example, you put a billboard next to a highway, जहाँ पे गाड़ियाँ निकल रही हैं, 60-70 kilometers an hour, उस billboard पे क्या चलेगा? Think about it, right? If there is already chaos, attention span is super low. You get like 1/10 of a second. So उसमें आपकी कंपनी के प्रोडक्ट्स के फीचर्स होंगे कि एक लाइन होगी. Because this is not about tools and technology or platforms. It's about giving a shit about user behavior. आप अपने users को how much of a shit do you give to really understand where they are. And great ideas for content, which I'll share in the process, are born out of giving a shit to their life, to their pain points, to their challenges. Because great companies, right, are built on great customer love. Great brands are built on great customer love. And that comes because the brands, the companies, they really give a shit about the user experience of the product. If you see any tech company, right, the tech teams, the CTOs, CEOs, they're really obsessed about the user experience of the product. Now, when it comes to marketing, why do we lose that obsessiveness about the user experience? Because to me, every second a person is spending on your video, every second, that second the person is not getting back. So, क्या आपने वो एक सेकंड अपने लोगो बड़ा करके दिखाने में लगा दिया, or did you actually provide value? Because brand integration हो जाएगा, but engagement is what we're after. So these challenges, like we need to be super aware of all the time when it comes to creating content and placing it in front of the audiences. Now this journey, I'll share. I just have 5-7 slides. I don't have much because it's all about I could create 30 slides, but it's not about the slide. It's about the concepts. The book is about the concepts. What are the fundamental concepts? This journey is about 370 million views, and more than that, this number is just validating, right? For example, imagine for somebody who dropped out of college. I always doubted myself, insecurities, fears, whatnot. To me, I was always hunting for validation, right? For example, a degree on the wall was validation. So when the first video got hit and the second video got hit and it started, I became obsessed about validating a process, not me. It became all about the process. कि ये चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है? Because when you treat your work as a lab that you're doing experiments, तो आपको marketing में, content में छक्के मारने का pressure नहीं है. We're not here to hit sixes. We're here to enjoy the game. And when you start enjoying the game, Monday mornings become the best days because you're building on the process. And at the heart of it is creativity. But how can we democratize it? It's not just agencies or some people have the creative gene. Everybody's born with creativity, just like everybody's born with intelligence. But how do we nurture it? So, for example, coming up with ideas and then taking the ideas right to the video. If you have a process, if you have a framework, then tomorrow you can meet with your friends on a Zoom call, think of an idea, and by Monday you can launch a video on LinkedIn. So that's the process right in front of your screen, right? You can take a picture, whatever, it's all in detail covered in the book. The operating word for viral is share worthy. अगर किसी ने आपका idea, आपका video, आपका content share नहीं किया, then all your money goes down the drain. Because this is how social media works. So imagine there's a big concert, and in that concert you have the mic in your hands, and 1 million people have come to listen to you. Now Facebook, Insta, this is like how social media works. Now in this concert, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, all these platforms, they control the volume of the speakers. They bloody control the volume of the speakers. तो आप जितना भी गाना गाते रहो, जितने भी comedian की तरह joke सुनाते रहो, वो किसी को सुनने नहीं देंगे. They will say, give us money, boost it, sponsor it, and they will make sure the rest of the people can get to hear what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, if what you're saying is so compelling that the first row is compelled to share with the row behind and the row behind, because no platform in the world can stop the organic sharing of content, because that's the premise these platforms were built on. And that's how you beat these platforms at their own game, by creating content which is so compelling that people start sharing on their own, and you don't pay money to expensive platform distribution. And that's the way of thinking like a startup. Because startup is not the size of the company, startup is not about how much funding you have. Startup is a mindset कि हम पैसे, resources नहीं खर्चेंगे, yet we will compete with the piggies and we will win. Every person, every company thinks like a startup. Even if you're working for a big company, but you think like a startup, you are an underdog, right? Because you're always up against. Because किसी भी campaign पे marketing में अरे पैसे खर्चना तो आसान है, but getting that engagement from a person to share that, directly with his friends and family, that's a big deal. And if you're a brand, when people start sharing your content organically, you save tons on distribution. Jab aapki audience becomes your evangelists, they start taking your video, put it on WhatsApp, it goes crazy, they start tagging their friends. That's the magical space you want to be in. I remember I was, doing a session at a company in Mumbai, and the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, walked in, and I was like, "Aapki video pe 2 million views hai. Congratulations, 2 million views on your video." He was, beaming with pride. Thank you very much. I'm like, "Tumhari video pe 2 million views hai. Sirf 2 shares hai. How many people work for your company?" He's like, 200. I'm like, 200 mein se 198 of your own audiences, 198 of your own family, 198 of your own employees did not care to share the video. जब आपकी की जनता ने वो वीडियो को शेयर नहीं किया है, then why are you complaining that you're not getting customer love or Facebook is unfair to you? Let's create content which is worthy of sharing first. So share worthy is by far the biggest metric, the only metric which matters, the number is shares. अगर आपकी वीडियो पे बहुत बड़ा रीच आया, आपकी वीडियो पे व्यूज आ गए, बस शेयर्स नहीं आए, then it did not go further, it did not truly create an impact in the life of your audience. So share worthy is by far the biggest mantra which I follow in terms of content. But share worthy kya hai? Just like creativity could be subjective, share worthy could be subjective too. So somebody from Forbes asked me that, I have seen your work, blah, blah, blah. What can you define share worthy? And I had a process about share worthy kya hai? And the process is IUCTC. Either the content is I for inspirational, or it's used for useful, or it celebrates their life, or it's topical, or it attempts to change the world, right? For example, we created a video about, a video which was useful. Now, useful videos are born out of making exhaustive list of pain points. So we had to make a video about hotels. Ab hotel mein pain points kya hai? Not problems, pain points. Pain points wo jisse frustration ho, jiska answer koi nahi de raha hai. Which, the mental loop we have all the time about tiniest of things. Because if you start giving a shit of tiniest of things, you reach a space where nobody has reached before. But you have to give a shit to actually walk their shoes. So we made a list of all the pain points people had when it came to hotels. And I remember I was in Goa once at this fancy marketing event. And this room was 30,000 rupees a night, really fancy, beach facing. And my wife called. She's like, wo shower cap le aaya. Shower cap. I'm like, इतना महंगा होटल, इतना महंगा रूम और तुम्हें shower cap की पड़ी है. But that's the thing. Everybody who grew up in a middle class India, किसी ने बताया ही नहीं कि हम होटल से क्या सामान ले जा सकते हैं, क्या नहीं ले जा सकते. So we curated all the things, and remember, if you've seen Friends में Ross has the same thing. One time that he takes some stuff from the hotel room, some Chandler says not allowed. So there was already a seed in my mind. This is a dot we can connect, and when we brainstormed together as a team, we made an exhaustive list. Because अगर आपने गलती करी तो ट्विटर पे आपको लोग आग लगा देंगे. So we made an exhaustive list of stuff जो हमें किसी ने बताया ही नहीं, right? And that video when we released, right, like it went up, it went down, but the biggest thing was we made that video in 7,500 rupees. That was the cost of production, because ideas are bigger than production. And that video on day 2 played on ZTV. I was so amazed that a digital content made for tiny phones was playing on ZTV. On day 3, it played on a US TV show. And Indian content made for tiny mobile screens, made for digital, went ahead and played, crossed the border and played on a US TV screen. I'm so proud of the team that, we look in the same direction and not at each other. And that's what I hate about a lot of, people who work in marketing teams across, that people work to please their boss. The boss works to please his boss. And his boss works to please the CEO, and the CEO works to please the investors. And the investor says, please take care of your users. So Shoes, why don't you take care of your users in the beginning? Because this process is about giving a shit, truly hugging your users and understanding which are the tiniest of things, what their pain points are, and how can we creatively solve that in useful videos. And if we cannot solve that, then we make, we celebrate their life with, relatable content. Let me give you an example of this video. Take a look.
Summer vacation is still in full swing, and some people help themselves to stuff in hotel rooms. You know who you are. But after one family in Bali was caught swiping everything from soap dispensers to electronics, the hotel released this guy. Take a look. It looks like a lot of fun. I think it's probably in it.
Now that video was made on super low budget, right? And we followed that process. We follow the process, which, you know, down to the T, right? From the first screen to the last screen. That was an example of, you know, making an exhaustive list of the pain points of users. And can we actually solve that through a video? Because on the orbit of your users' pain points, one pain point your product or service solves. For example, Ixigo is a travel company. We, you know, make sure the flights are booked in time, the trains are booked, we provide that service. But us orbit mein, which are all the other pain points which your product is not solving, but you stand for that. Because your brand is not about your products. The brand is about what you stand for as a brand. Right? For example, the DNA of, say, Ixigo as a travel company is about making the lives of travelers better. You know, for HDFC, it could be about finance. For Zomato, it could be about food. Now, if the lives of travelers need to be made better, if somebody goes to Chennai and he can't speak Tamil, right? He's new to that place. Now, the app, the product will not solve that. But can we solve that with content? So we made this video called How to Speak Hyderabadi, and that went crazy. Then we made How to Speak Bengali, Tamil, Telugu. That experiment of teaching a language in 1 minute got us 24 million views and 3.5 lakh people shared it. Then we experimented and shared a recent example of not just languages, but, you know, slangs and the way India is, because the beauty of India is, you know, Lucknow versus Kanpur, Delhi versus Mumbai, Bollywood, cricket. I mean, something which is so absent, you know, like a lot, like I lived in Canada for 3 years, and when I came back to India, there was an amazing opportunity to actually create content, you know, for our own audiences. So we made a video which went crazy last month called How to Speak Lucknowi. I'll play it right now. Take a look.
अम्मा यार इतराओ मत, काटो यहाँ से। बकैती बकैती दाहिल खिसक गए हैं क्या? तफरी मारते हैं। गंजिंग गंजिंग पानी के बताशे। जनाब, मोहतरमा, तशरीफ रखिए। पहले आप, हम, आप, लीचड़, गुसल खाना, टूटा, वाहियात, छीछा लेदर, घंटा, थोड़ा खिसकेंगे। शुक्रिया।
So that was Lucknowi, right? We just made a list of all these tiny, you know, phrases, and we started from a language experiment, and we moved to this, following the same process. Now, this video, you know, went crazy in Lucknow last month, right? We did outreach, and one page shared it with 80 WhatsApp groups, and within a matter of hours, it went crazy for everybody who was connected to Lucknowi culture, right? I'll share another example, because for a travel company, you know, like when the lockdown happened and, you know, like people were not traveling, we needed to be relevant in the lives of people. We can't say take a flight, take a train, bloody trains and flight are off, right? So to stay relevant in the lives of people, we really need to, keep our ear to the ground and understand what are the pain points again, what are the tiny micro moments everybody is going through. And we released this video called Travel Geet Mala, which was because everybody was home, everybody was missing travel. So we made this video which went crazy on WhatsApp. So take a look. It's called Travel Geet Mala.
मैं वापस आऊंगा, मैं वापस आऊंगा।
शाम सवेरे तेरी यादें आती हैं,
दिल चीर के देख तेरा ही नाम होगा।
लंबी जुदाई, लंबी जुदाई।
तुमसे मिलने को दिल करता है रे बाबा। ऊंची है बिल्डिंग, लिफ्ट तेरी बंद है। हमें तुमसे प्यार कितना ये हम नहीं।
गलियां गलियां तेरी गलियां, सुनो ना संग मरमर की ये मीनारे, तेरी मेरी मिट जानी है दूरियां।
इंतहा हो गई इंतजार की।
मार डाला, मार डाला।
Because nobody was traveling, the only messaging we had was, stay home, travel later, and that's what mattered at that time. So that's about picking ideas which are worthy of sharing. And there's a process about, deep diving on making an exhaustive list of their pain points. The ones which you can creatively solve are useful. The ones which you cannot solve are, are relatable, called, celebrating their life. And T is for topical, C is for change the world. You can read a lot of examples of that in the book, so you understand how you can apply that wherever you are, for your personal branding on LinkedIn or for your own company on different social platforms. Once you've identified the topic, the idea, which has come out of a process that it's worthy of sharing, then comes, how do you make it? And the second fundamental is that storytelling beats production value. Production value of a video is determined by the size of the screen where the video will play. अगर आपका content एक छोटे से phone पे चलेगा, then you don't need to become Sanjay Leela Bhansali in the production, right? You just need to focus that your storytelling must be kick-ass. Because छोटे screen पे all you need to do is keep everything clutter-free, right? I'll give you an example right now. A friend of mine, he's the CEO of a big company who used to provide lunches and meals to 54,000 offices around the world. So they had massive industrial kitchens, right? And at this time when lockdown started, a lot of people were on the street, migrant workers. That was a big problem, and they jumped into this to help, and they started creating basic food items in their kitchen, and they tied up with local NGOs to feed that. So I was talking to him, and me and my wife at home made this video for 350 rupees. And this video, right, it took 10,000 people to their landing page, and about 1 million people were fed only by this. And that's the power of storytelling. It's not about production value, because छोटे से screen पे, right? Can you truly engage with them without spending a bomb on production value? Because that means that everybody here on this call, we have like 500 people, everybody has an HD camera on their phones. You already have the equipment. All you need to figure out is the narrative. And that narrative, if it's driven by a process, then you can keep building on that. So here's a video called Let's Feed Together. This came out in end of March and April, and this, just take a look. The next fundamental is that once you have the idea which is worthy of sharing, then you figured out how that storytelling would work, and that process about step-by-step storytelling, so it's easy for you, so that you don't have the pressure of becoming a Spielberg or a famous Bollywood director about storytelling. That I call it the bullet point way of writing a screenplay, because all the videos, all the content I've worked on the last 6 years have been completely in the opposite direction of the way it has to be. Content in the past, what I grew up on was about fiction, and fiction is ये character है, there's some conflict, the hero rises, and every ad has that little story, every movie has a little story, and to me, every idea, every thought about every video which came into mind, the first thought is the wrong one, because that has come from the programming. So instead of fiction, I entirely focus on non-fiction. Now, all these videos which you've seen, and the more you'll see, are driven by non-fiction. They're driven by values, they're driven by bullet points, and an exhaustive, curated list which directly connects with your audience. So third is move fast and engage. Because the user attention span is so low, we need to engage with them in the first 3 to 6 seconds. The first 3 to 6 seconds of a video make or break a video. And the thumbnail of the video and the first 3 to 6 seconds by far decide the success of the video. So I'm going to show this video which we did for Imagica. Imagica is like a theme park next to Mumbai. And the big learning in this video is that your content in your videos, your marketing should not be about the brand. It should not be about the brand, but people who consume the brand. Not about roller coasters, but people who take roller coasters. So take a look at this video, which is not about the roller coasters, but people who take roller coasters, and the brand becomes a vehicle for that narrative. A recent example of this was during the lockdown, when we were all stuck at home and we were figuring out new ways to come up with ideas and content, and we started making a lot of brainstorming and again making exhaustive lists that what are we missing about travel. Since I work for a travel company, what are we missing about travel? So we made this video which went crazy and was famously plagiarized as well. Take a look, which applies the same fundamental of moving fast and we engage. Take a look.
This is the final boarding call. Final boarding call. Final call. Final boarding call for passengers.
इंदिरा गांधी हवाई अड्डे में आपका स्वागत है. आपका स्वागत है.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
कृपया अपनी कुर्सी की पेटी बांधे रखें.
Thank you.
देवी और सज्जनों.
Thank you.
देवी और सज्जनों अपने स्थान पर बने रहें.
चाय
से चलकर हरिद्वार को जाने वाली
चाय
कृपया ध्यान दीजिए. कृपया ध्यान दीजिए. प्लेटफॉर्म नंबर 1 पर आ चुकी है.
हमारे साथ यात्रा करने के लिए धन्यवाद.
The next fundamental is make for mobile. If everybody is consuming your content on your tiny devices, then it makes sense to adapt and make it for the tiny screen sensibility, right? But it's not about कि आपने बहुत अच्छा TV ad या फिर movie बनाया, short film बनाया, video बनाया, उसको YouTube पे चिपका दो. It's about truly understanding the nuances of a tiny screen. For example, take the word selfie. Selfie is a phenomenon for the last, say, a decade and a half. And what is a selfie? Selfie is I'm standing on Mount Everest. To hell with the mountain. Here's my photo, front and center. So we need to keep our content front and center and apply the rule of the selfie that on a tiny screen. We need to keep it clutter-free and right in the face of the audience when they're consuming it, right? So the biggest learning, over the last 6 years was to experiment with square videos, because videos have always been rectangle, for lack of a better word, right? Because TV screens were rectangle, movie screens were rectangle, but we use phones vertically. So the square format, takes more real estate on the screen, and that's, it's very effortless for a person to keep swiping up and up again. So I'm going to share this video called Goa Plans Be Like, which was born out of making an exhaustive list about Goa जाने में जनता के pain points क्या हैं, right? Because Goa is an overly celebrated destination. So take a look. This is for Goa. Video, I want to show you one more video, which was what we done Women's Day, because like on Women's Day we were brainstorming about following the same process. What are the tiniest of things which cause frustration for a woman when it comes to traveling in India? And it was not the usual flight ticket, hotels. So we did this brainstorming in the office, and we asked the boys, what do you think are the number one pain points for women? And they had the usual answers. But when we asked the women, it was heart-touching and eye-opening, something which we already knew, that in India, women need approval from their parents and permission from their spouses to travel. I'm like, that's a pain point nobody's addressing. Can we start that conversation, right? So we asked the boys to leave, and the girls told us all the bullshit they get to hear from parents and spouses. And within 10 minutes, our research was done about Janta exactly bolti kya, what exactly do they get to listen. And from that, a simple idea was born, in which every person who was part of that in the office, they contributed, and they showed up in the video, and that became one of my favorite videos. Let me just show you. It's called Ruk Jana Nahi. Here's the video.
क्या करोगी जाके? शादी के बाद जाना। बड़े पर निकल आए हैं तुम्हारे। पूछ रही है या बता रही है? लड़के भी जा रहे हैं क्या? बहुत बड़ी हो गई है, अब तो पैसे कमाने लग गई हो, हमसे क्या पूछना?
तुम्हारी बड़ी बहन तो कभी गई नहीं।
तुम्हें बड़ी आग लगी है। तुम्हारी संगत ही गलत है।
उनके पेरेंट्स बड़े ओपन होंगे, हमारे यहाँ ये सब नहीं चलता है। वो कुएं में कूदेंगे तो तुम भी कूद जाओगे।
लोग क्या कहेंगे?
वही रहना, वापस आने की क्या जरूरत है?
So that was that video. The next fundamental is distribution strategy, because if you create great videos and great content, they will die in a vault if you do not distribute them right? And the most important thing in distributing a video is the first 1 hour, right? And what you do in that first 1 hour makes or breaks the video. And you'll read about that process in the book. We're running short of time. But the most important thing is that us 1 ghante mein, we need to really, ride on our immediate community and get organic success for a video, because that's validation if you need to spend money on the video. Many of the videos in the past have gone crazy just by pure organic outreach, pure organic sharing. And when you do outreach, when you reach out to a lot of people where your content could complement them. That's the most underrated strategy in distribution. Because आपका वीडियो बैठे बैठे अपने आप ऊपर नहीं जाएगा. Like Bhagwan will not come. You don't have to ring the bells. You have to actually take actions, having checklists that all the items you need to do. Because पैसे खर्चना आसान है. You can give money to Facebook or Insta and they'll show it to different people. But if you need to get organic success, then that gives you validation that when you spend money, you'll get the bang for the buck. The next fundamental is conversations before campaigns. I'm tired of campaigns every year, right? There's so many campaigns every brand is running. To me, if your content or video drives conversations, then it's worthy of becoming a campaign. Are social, if your content cannot drive conversation, then you start getting relevant. You need to be part of conversations on social with your content, under your video, under your meme, under your visuals. And that's the whole game. So, for example, in the last 4 months, in travel, like whenever I go out, there was a conversation which we wanted to start and which was very close to our heart. So we started this conversation right in the times of COVID. Take a look at this video. It's called COVIDians.
अनलॉक को कोरोना का अंत समझ रहे हो तो कोविडियट हो तुम. अगर बाजारों में बेमतलब घूम रहे हो तो कोविडियट हो तुम. अरे मास्क पहनते वक्त नाक ढकना सीखो. फ्लाइट में सोशल डिस्टेंस मेंटेन करना सीखो. बस में मत चढ़ो फैलाकर अपनी बाहें. भीड़ में सैर मत करो, थोड़ी खाली छोड़ो राहें. अगर धार्मिक स्थानों में झुंड बना रहे हो तो कोविडियट हो तुम. अगर अब भी कोरोना को मजाक समझ रहे हो तो कोविडियट हो तुम.
And the last point in the whole session today is about keeping it authentic. Content and ads are like oil and water, right? Because nobody gives a shit to your brand, how shiny your logo is, right? People give a shit to their pain points, their frustrations, their life, their chaos, their kids, their job, their EMIs. So if we truly focus on them, then we don't get users, we don't get viewers, we get evangelists who take our video, they share it with their WhatsApp groups, with their Facebook communities, and that's the space we want to be in. When our content truly creates an impact in the lives of others. So if we truly stay on the side of staying authentic, which is where content operates, right? That's when, like for example, every Facebook post, every tweet is about, in my opinion, attempt to make the world a better place. And social media and internet is built on authenticity. Because जो चीज authentic नहीं है वो तो टीवी पे है ना. So here's a video of what we did for Mother's Day, and it's really close to my heart, and it was super simple, minimal execution, but just take a look. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aashish. I think that was full of insights. I've got so many questions myself, and there are questions from students as well.
Okay.
I'll just
we're
quickly
almost running out of time, so we'll keep it to about 5-7 minutes. And Baki guys, if you have questions, send me a DM on LinkedIn. But read the book first, so your questions, we spend less time answering them. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, one question is primarily around the IUCTC, that you had mentioned there. If you could quickly tell us, what does that stand for?
Sure. IUCTC stands for I is for inspirational, U is for useful, C is for celebrating their life, T is for topical, and C is for change the world.
Sure.
Right? So all these categories, all these buckets have been validated by tons of experiments, millions of views and shares, right? So Inspiration content is when somebody watches your video, watches the content, tags 5 other friends, and he wants to be the first to be in that cool category of inspiring somebody. Useful is when you creatively solve somebody's pain point. Pain point which you can't solve is celebrate their life. For example, Women's Day pe, we can't create a video where your father sees the video and says, "Ja, ji le apni zindagi," because I've seen a video. You can't solve that problem, say, about approval and permission, but we can start a conversation. And that, the third category is like celebrating the life. T is topical. Topical is any breaking trend. And if you can combine that breaking trend with your brand DNA, that makes topical content, or we can call it news jacking or moment marketing, whatever. And the last is change the world. If you truly attempt to make the world a better place with your, with your content, then I believe, it starts a tiny movement and everybody rallies for them. The first video which I showed you was in the direction of making the world a better place, even if it was in a tiny way.
Sure. Awesome. Understood. There's another question here, Aashish, which is primarily around, so actually there were a lot of questions in this space, and I'd just like you to clarify this point to people, which is basically, don't you think such videos touch the brand very little? For example, the Imagica one, or don't you think even though such videos become viral, can you help us explain how do they impact the brand, or how is it profitable to the brand?
The thing is, what we're after eventually is engagement. अगर आप social पे, अगर आप अपने content में brand करते रहोगे, right? That causes a lot of blindness because everybody else is yelling at the users. जब तक आपको अपने user की engagement, attention ही नहीं मिलेगी, engagement कैसे होगी? Engagement आने के बाद at least we are relevant in that person's life for that time. Now imagine we make a video जिसमें brand was subtly part of the narrative. The content was not about the brand, it was about the users. Brand was a narrative. So we were relevant in their lives in the right conversations. Now if we retarget that audience with specific offers which add value to them, then we will be relevant compared to somebody who is absolutely new. And videos which go viral for a brand, we save tons in spending on branding across mediums and on TV, all this jim jam of platforms. So when you're like, for example, imagine a video which goes to, we had a video which had 40 million views in a week, and that video had the sheer reach compared to a TVC at the time of IPL, and we spent zero on it. It was all about experimenting and the excitement in the team to keep challenging whatever we know and build on that. Right? So आपकी videos से ROI first will be your branding, which is very important because your brand is part of conversation. Second is you get a lot of organic conversions. When your video hits millions of views, a lot of people start coming checking you out. And third is that we experiment with short form performance ads, which are like 6 seconds or 15 seconds, which we can retarget, and experiment with storytelling in the ads as well, because content is all about engagement. Content में product नहीं बेचना. And ads are truly about conversions, right? That's how we track the success, A/B testing success of advertisements, right? By ads, I don't mean TV ads, but short form performance ads, right? So even though we have all these formats, जनता को सिर्फ हर चीज में content ही चाहिए, because that's what they hunt for. That's how we read newspaper. That's how we switch channel, because we're hunting for content, and brands are nothing but interruptions. So we need to work on storytelling even in the ad. So the 3 ways: one is branding, second is organic conversion, and third is experimenting with video ads and getting a lot of conversions.
Thank you, Aashish. There's so many more questions, but I think you don't really have the time right now to probably get through to them. But thank you so much for doing this with us. I think this was certainly a topic which is very, very interesting to everybody, obviously. But it is also something which is sort of still like an unsolved riddle, and you've been able to give us a step-by-step process of very, very clear rule of thumb what is required.
Sure.
Looking forward to watching some great stuff from you in the future as well.
Thank you. I think this is a very weird reality that there were about 500 people and still I'm talking to a screen, right? So I hope things improve faster, and all the best to everyone. And guys, Amazon ran out of the book because it became like
yes.
Get on Flipkart, get on Kindle, or wait for a week. You get from Amazon. So all the best, and send me questions.
Thank you so much, Aashish. Thank you guys for joining in. get access to more of such content, we've put in the link to our Instagram channel above your chat box itself. Please feel free to link in there. We talk about marketing concepts there by connecting them to popular culture, by connecting them to topical stuff that's going around right now, etc. So that you're able to absorb that marketing content, not just through brands, etc., but also through some other interesting things like movies, etc. as well. That's it. That's all we have here. The next session is going to be actually with me. I'm going to be talking about search marketing. Be there so that you can learn about how do we really run ads on Google itself. We'll see you there. Thank you so much.